the unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is settlement with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, we can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Today I'd like to talk about our fickle mind. Now, I could have sworn it was fickled, the word. But in looking in the dictionary, fickle, it ends with an E, appears to be an adjective, so I'm going to go with that. So I want to talk about our fickle mind and our original mind, our Buddha mind. Some people call it our old mind. I'm not a neurologist or a neuropsychologist, as you probably know. So I don't have a medical or psychological basis for what I'm going to talk about. And yet, as a simple Buddhist monk, part of my training has been to look at my mind. You know, that's what the Buddha talks about. Look at your mind. Look into your own mind. Be your own liberation. Now, I'm sure you all know what fickle means, but just in case, looking up in Webster's dictionary, fickle means changeable or unstable in affection, disposition, interest, or loyalty. It means capricious, it's another big word. Inconstant. I looked up capricious because I wouldn't have known off the bat what that meant. Tending to change abruptly and without apparent reason. Erratic, flighty. Now, I don't know about you and your minds, because all our minds are different, but that's a bit of a description of my mind sometimes. When we look at our minds, certain things make sense. There can be an orderliness to it, memories and recognition and recall of how we have done things in the past, which helps guide us in the present and the future. There can be endless details, you know, and that can be good. And an ability to connect the dots. You know, there's a reasoning ability in our minds. And this, of course, helps us in everyday life. And these things can be very useful. But when we look at our mind, we also see sometimes we have formed set opinions and views about the way things are that may or may not be actually the way things are. We have moods and emotions based on these opinions, which, if we follow, can take us, well, can drag us up and down. You know, I'm not saying that any of these things are bad, but when I look at my mind, I see this. There's a lot going on in these minds of ours. Through the practice of meditation, we learn to let the mind settle a bit, slow down a little. And this process of just sitting, so this is our description of meditation, just sitting with no deliberate thought, helps us to find the wisdom of what we should actually follow and pursue in the mind. Because there's these choices, and choices have consequences. In the scientific world, it used to be thought that the brain stopped developing after a while in adulthood. I guess it was thought that the brain, like the body, didn't grow any taller after a while, you know, after we matured. Well, in recent years, that's totally been overturned. It has been proven through scientific study. You know, they wire people's brains up and do all these studies. The brain, the adult brain remains open to change throughout its lifespan. Well, this is incredibly positive, isn't it? Because it means that we can continue to change. We're not stuck. We can continue to learn new things. We can continue to improve ourselves. I think that's, you know, it's really positive. It's also true that if we are fortunate enough to live to an old age, the mind will lose some of its abilities, some of its quickness, some of its agility. Personally, I find that sometimes I can't remember a word or a name anymore, you know. Maybe it was always like that, but it doesn't seem so. And, you know, I just have to kind of think, well, after 70 years, maybe certain parts of the brain have become full up. So they have to release stuff to fit any more in. I mean, there's certain, you know, because you can only fit so much in, even if your mind is continuing to grow. And you know, there's this thing, maybe with aging, we won't remember what we were so out of sorts about. So we just let it go. It's just, and that's a real relief, you know, whereas before we just, you know, our memory was so good and we're all so locked into it. Okay. So in our modern world, we invest a lot in our ability to reason, to compare, to be quick-witted, to know all manner of things. And the computers give us more and more information. There's nothing wrong with information, but how much is enough? And more to the point, we have to be careful not to mistake information for knowledge. And knowledge can be good, but we don't want to mistake knowledge for wisdom. These are a little bit different things. There are some poignant sayings in the Dhammapada. This is the sayings of the Buddha, you know, so I'm going to read a few of these. So the Buddha says, the restless, agitated mind, hard to protect, hard to control. The sage makes straight as a fletcher the staff of an arrow. There's another one. The mind, hard to control, flighty, alighting where it wishes. One does well to tame. This disciplined mind brings happiness. There's another one. Whatever an enemy may do to an enemy, or haters one to another, far worse is the harm from one's own wrongly directed mind. So it's you and your own mind that can cause more harm than any of these other things. You with your own mind. And then lastly, neither mother nor father nor any relative can do one as much good as one's own well-directed mind. So in Buddhist training, clearly we have a responsibility to train our minds. When we sit down to meditate, we begin to get a good look at our minds. So it's a wonderful thing about meditation, even though maybe initially it's a little alarming, but we get to have a good look at our minds. The ideas that are in there, the emotions, the moods, the likes and dislikes, the habitual modes of thinking and reasoning that we follow, the good memories, the bad memories, the good things we have done, the misdeeds, and harm that we have caused in our life. One of the wonderful side benefits of meditation and Buddhist practice, I believe, is that they help us sort the mind out. Okay? Sometimes when we transition from the meditation cushion to everyday life, you know, there's something that's been there in meditation. We haven't been really picking it apart or anything, but it's just been there. So we realize that we need to investigate it and see what's going on there. Maybe do something about it. Because sometimes there's a reason why things are arising in the mind. Other times we need to recognize, accept, and then just let go. Okay? We say about the mind in meditation, we let go, but we don't push away. Okay? Well, actually, this is an incredibly subtle distinction. You know, it takes a long, I think it's a lifetime of learning what that actually means to neither hold on nor push away. Okay? It takes time, practice, and trial and error to understand what letting go is. So in life, we tend to form likes and dislikes, and the untrained mind can hold on to likes and push away dislikes, because likable things give us pleasure and happiness, seemingly. And unlikable things seem to make us uncomfortable and unhappy, upset. Okay, but this is the untrained mind with the likes and the dislikes. Because even things that we like don't last forever. Okay? As all things, they are subject to change and impermanence. If we train our minds, we realize that it is not very satisfactory to be ruled by our likes and dislikes. Rather, if we take more of a stance of neutrality towards the opposites, we are much less knocked about by them. If we have a strong opinion about something, we can loosen that up and make room to consider different, maybe even opposing views. How revolutionary. But will that really hurt us, to look at other views, even if we have a strong view? If we tend to have old habitual ways of reacting to certain perceived situations and circumstances, we can ask the question, is this really the way it is? Is what I'm seem to be experiencing, is it really the way it is? Am I seeing this clearly? Am I confusing something that happened in the past with what is right in front of me? Because we can be really certain and we can be really wrong. Because we confuse things. I mean, at least I do. If you read The Wild Wild Goose, you see how pivotal a point it was in River Master Jiyu's training when she was at Sojoji and all appeared to be going wrong and crazy, and out of sorts, to the point where she was thinking about leaving. I think she even walked out of the temple a bit. But then she looked at her mind and she concluded she could be wrong. Maybe she was taking things the wrong way. Maybe it wasn't quite all the way that she thought, even in all the craziness. So for our local Sangha book group, we're reading Everything Arises, Everything Falls Away, Teachings on Impermanence and the End of Suffering by Ajahn Chah. So in Ajahn Chah's training of the mind, he used the three characteristics of existence. Those three characteristics are impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, or sometimes people say suffering, and not self. So I used these three characteristics to penetrate the fickle mind. Sometimes he would approach the mind even more directly. So I'm going to read a little bit of his teaching here. He says, whatever states of mind, happy or unhappy, occur, never mind. We should constantly be reminding ourselves, this is uncertain. This is something people don't consider very much, that this is uncertain. Just this is the vital factor that will bring about wisdom. In order to cease our coming and going and find rest, we only need to say, this is uncertain. Sometimes we may be distraught over something to the point that tears are flowing. That is something not certain. When moods of desire or aversion come to us, we should just remind ourselves this one thing. Whether standing, walking, sitting, or lying down, whatever appears is uncertain. You don't need to keep track of all the various instances of mental experience. When you sit in meditation, there may be various conditions of mind appearing, seeing and knowing all manner of things. Don't keep track of them and don't get wrapped up in them. You only need to remind yourself that they're uncertain. That's enough. That's simple and easy to do. Then you can stop. Knowledge will come, but then don't make too much out of that. That's the knowledge, or get attached to it. So, Ajahn Chah is really kind of direct to that point, and I know it can upset some people because it's old. We bank so much on certainty, and if someone's telling us to look into things and see them as uncertain, that kind of shakes the boat a bit. And I don't think that the uncertainty that Ajahn Chah is talking about is this vague, I don't know anything about anything type of mind. I'm just stupid, I don't know anything, I'm uncertain, it's not that. but rather he's talking about a totally different type of uncertainty and certainty that I'm going to call the academic way most of us were taught in school. It's just very different than that. Okay? So the original mind, the old mind, that's what expression Ajahn Chah uses. The Buddha mind, Master Jiyu used to say the Buddha mind, has a real clarity to it. It's not invested in likes and dislikes and views and opinions. It's coming from a much deeper place. The mind is actually much more spacious than the little mind that we can get caught up in. Right in the middle of the arising of a strong opinion, we can realize, well, maybe there's more to this. Maybe more to the situation or the person that I am presently seeing. Maybe I should give this all another look. Okay, another thing, maybe we really like to do some type of activity and we avoid doing something else, like the plague, you know. That's kind of how we are. Well, right there, we can decide to give the thing that we dislike a chance. And we do what we're avoiding. And actually what we usually realize is, well, that wasn't so bad. Now I have this thing with our kitchen cleanup, okay? Because I got caught once. You know, somebody asked me to do sinks and surfaces, and I could feel this grumble coming up, you know, and I indulged it, and I said, well, you know, I just did that last night and the night before. And I realized, you know, pretty soon after, definitely the next day, that's not a very good attitude of mind. So what I do now is when somebody gives me an assignment for kitchen cleanup, I said, oh yes, that's my very favorite thing, no matter what it is. And it seems silly, okay? But when you do that, you kind of fly right in the face of the mind, okay? The stuff that's holding you back, you know, and you just do it. Okay? So you don't even need to say that, obviously. You just bow and do it, okay? So maybe we have a mood arising. Now, do you have moods, any of you? I mean, I have moods. I'll have to admit it, I've got moods. But right in the arising of a mood, we can say, oh, that mood is arising. Is that really very fruitful for myself and others? You know, is it really a good thing? And we can change our mood. See, we can think our moods just really stick us, but they don't. And it's hard work to kind of reverse things, okay? And how will we know if we don't give it a try? So life is not a foregone conclusion. It's not predestined. Change is occurring all the time, whether we like it or not. So it's better if we move with it. Otherwise we're bouncing around with the liking and not liking. And it is actually the nature of the mind to be at peace. True peace is the peace of equanimity. See, this is the problem, partly what we consider peace to be. But I think true peace is equanimity. Equanimity brings an evenness of temper and disposition, no matter what's going on. It's unconditional. We cannot control conditions, but we can direct our mind to accept things as they are. We can discipline and train the mind to be big and spacious, not small and petty. And in this way, we help ourselves and others. So today we celebrated the Buddha's parinirvana, and last night we read the Buddha's last teaching. So I want to just quote something from the Buddha's last teaching, because actually in that Buddha's last teaching, he talks a lot about the mind and what benefits us and what doesn't benefit us. So he says, when your mind is alert, then you are in meditation. Because your mind is in meditation, you are able to know the world, birth and death, as well as the characteristics of all things. Therefore, you should always study and practice the ways of meditation with finest discipline. When you achieve meditation, your heart is not in turmoil or your mind scattered. Just as a household that would be frugal with water arranges dikes and pond banks carefully, so a trainee does likewise. Therefore, for the sake of the water of discriminate wisdom, practice meditation well, that you may prevent the loss of that water through leaks caused by the defiling passions. So, for leaks caused by the defiling passions. This is what I call doing meditation. So that's from the Buddha. So mindfulness isn't just about mindfulness of things. Mindfulness is about mindfulness of our own minds and what we're doing with our own minds. And I always found this analogy very helpful. Ajahn Chah said we should have one chair in our minds, and we should know who our guests are. And if it's a guest that isn't going to benefit us and others, we give them their hat, and it's their hurry, they're out of there. So, thank you very much.